Hey there, my name is Steve Beck, and the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. And I just had a complete brain fart. I forgot what I'm doing. Now I remembered. This is the video vault, the second of our new ongoing strands where we look into interesting and bizarre, a bit of off the beaten track cinema. Not necessarily good, but a little interesting, bizarre, off the beaten track. I have a panel with me to help dissect today's movie. Today's movie is the 1983 Francis Ford Coppola's Rumblefish, starring pretty much everybody cool. Matt Dillon, Dennis Hopper, Nicolas Cage, and a bunch of people. So who is with me today? We have the Mega Geek, Ian the Mega Geek. How are you? Let me bring you in.
Right.
How are you this fine afternoon, evening?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm rearing to go.
Oh, 1 second. I'm terribly sorry. I had my sound turned off.
Oh, did
That's
you?
better. Now go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I'm rearing to go. That's all.
I can hear me come in the room with me.
I'm here. I'm rearing to go, mate.
Excellent.
Rumblefish.
Rumblefish. We have with
Rumblefish.
us Dan Hadley for the Facebook, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. How are you this fine
Got it right.
I'm glad you said that. That saved me from saying that. I'm usually the one who says that. Go on, sorry.
I'm sorry. Is it?
Go on.
What would you call 6 o'clock? Is it afternoon? Is it evening for you? I was going to say evening and afternoon.
I'd call it the early evening.
Yeah.
There you
Good
go.
early evening to you. And we still have room on the screen. We can squeeze one more person in, but it's a being, and he's a bit of a problem sometimes. It is, of course, problem being. How are you?
Hello, I am well.
Very sinister this evening.
Yes, I thought I'd look a bit more sinister today. Bit
Looks like he's
fiery.
on fire.
Yeah. Regenerating.
We can see what
That's it.
So, Rumblefish, this is going to have tons of spoilers. Rumblefish is essentially 2 or 3 days out the life of Matt Dillon's character, who is the brother of the former head of the gangs. There are no longer any gangs as the movie starts, and he
Rusty
idolizes.
James.
I'm sorry,
Rusty James.
Rusty James. He idolizes
Man,
who was the leader of the gang, the motorcycle boy. And as the movie begins, the gangs are over, the rumbles are over, which he looks back at very fondly and affectionately. And he's kind of like the pseudo head of the gang, if there was a gang. And the movie starts with him being challenged to a fight by a third party. Who was that third party? The black
the
guy?
Greeks.
Sorry,
Was it the Greeks?
is that his name? I didn't even.
No, I thought that was the other gang, wasn't it? The Greeks.
The other gang, I think so.
The other gang. No, but who was the name of the guy who goes
actor.
from the beginning?
Larry Fishburne.
That was Larry Fishburne?
Yeah,
the
Lawrence
black
Yeah.
Fishburne.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's him.
That's a young Lawrence Fishburne. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God.
Larry
Wow.
back then. Larry, love it.
Larry.
Larry, love it.
Maybe like 3 years after Apocalypse. Apocalypse Now was 79. That's Lawrence Fishburne's first movie. He's completely unrecognizable in it. He plays one of the boat.
And unrecognizable in this to you, Rabbi.
Yeah.
I think for the next end, he's a completely different man, isn't he? That's the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Tom Waits was in it as well.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Tom Waits.
As the guy behind the bar, isn't he?
Who's not the bartender, the milkshake tender. That's where they hang out. So this is really, I think the main characters here, I think are all about 15, 16 years old. Would that be about right, do you think?
Well, the older brother, he talks about, doesn't he? It's there's 4 years age difference between them, and he's 21. So they're 16, 17. That's what I
I think Matt Dillon was 18 or 19 when he filmed this, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of the characters in because they're still going to school, so they must be.
Oh, the actors look about 25.
But Matt Dillon was actually. Matt Dillon was actually
looks 40.
I know, he always looks 40. I know.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, there's let's see who's in this picture. There's Nicolas Cage, obviously looking. Nicolas Cage is probably pretty young here. Matt Dillon. That's Sean Penn, not Sean Penn. That's the other Penn brother from Reservoir.
The guy who
Fishburne.
What was I?
Chris Penn.
Chris Penn, that is Chris Penn. And yeah, I guess they must be in their 20s, but they're playing younger than they are. So yeah, the most notable thing I would say about this movie is the incredible black and white cinematography, which I just found an absolute joy to watch. No matter what was actually going on screen, I just found I liked those grays and blacks, and it was kind of like silver. It was just one. It was like it was washing it over you, which
very film noir.
Sorry,
very film noir.
A very film noir. And so the first, I would say, 20 minutes of the movie is this fight between Matt Dillon's character, and it's like a near pseudo rumble. And at the end of it, his brother shows up when Matt Dillon is after winning the fight conclusively, fantastically choreographed fight. But that whole opening scene is just I like the cinematography, the choreography, everything. The way
it's like a ballet. It was like something out of a musical. It was like out of the Jets versus the Sharks kind of thing. And he kept expecting them to burst out into song.
I was wondering who was going to be the first person to mention West Side Story, because it reminded me the very most of.
Yeah, and it also reminded me like an extended version of the Beat It video from Michael Jackson.
Yes, I've got Beat It written down here as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember the Beat It video.
I think it was deliberate, though. It was deliberate.
I think there was probably some influence into. I mean, that came later, didn't it, or something?
Yeah, it was deliberate to make it look like West Side Story. It was
well, yeah, I mean, you've got a prime example here. That's a typical West Side Story shot.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of the jazz music in the background, the fact that it never really stops making a noise at you, trying to make you feel something. It feels like a musical, even though nobody's singing. And I think that's one of the things.
Stuart Copeland from the Police.
Yes, he did the music. Yeah.
I think
he was actually on the set making the noise so that the actors could kind of get
like
that
with
rhythm.
his drums.
Yeah, you know what? He was.
Wow, cool.
And he was on the set making the noise so the actors could get the rhythm of the fight.
Really clever. That's really clever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Full disclosure about this. I until yesterday, I had never seen this film before, ever. Not a single clip, not a single frame. I didn't even know it was in black and white until quite late. No, I had no idea anything about it. I am a bit of a fan of the Police. I love that band, and this must have been. It was 83. The Police didn't split up till early 84, early mid 84 officially did. So this must have been, if not the first film he ever worked on. He's now worked on 20 or 30, I'm sure. It must have been one of the first, and hence that kind of willingness to be in there doing whatever. He went on to do the music to Wall Street and that classic
Equalizer.
Highlander 2, The Quickening. He was the
Equalizer. he did the theme for the Equalizer.
What, the TV show or the film?
Yeah, the TV show.
I love that theme. That's one of the greatest theme tunes ever made.
In the Denzel Washington movie, I never saw it.
But do you know, right, a fact about this film? Do you know that Francis Ford Coppola was one of the very first people to do previs? And I don't know if you guys know what previs is. Previs they do now. They basically, before they shoot anything, they have a computer-generated person on the screen, and they know what angles to shoot. So they recreate the whole film in computer. So in when Francis was making this film, he made all the actors act out everything that was in the movie and shot it on video, and did a horrible green screen with the sets, drawn sets in the background. So he shot the whole film on video first, just to make sure the performances was working, people knew where they were standing and stuff like that. Then he went and shot the film.
Well, this was the time when Francis Ford Coppola was developing a very interesting, I would say, repertory of like it wasn't even repertory. It was like it was a weird clique around him. He had him. This was Nicolas Cage was there, Scarlett Johansson.
Most of them were related to him.
right. Well, his daughter's in the movie playing. What's the name? Matt Damon's sister. Sophia Coppola. So fine. So let's just talk about this first 20-minute section. What's everybody's thoughts and impressions?
Well, I found
who's
it.
first?
I'm going to start speaking here because I had never ever seen this film before. I'd always meant to. I am not a fan of Francis Ford Coppola in particular. He's one of those directors I don't actively seek out his work. I've seen the Godfather movies, but I didn't see those until about 10 years ago. So I've probably only ever seen about half of his output.
I don't know. Avoid the other half.
So I don't know, but to me, this is unlike anything else that I've ever seen from him. You know, it's striking, and the influences right from the beginning. I mean, I noticed the West Side Story thing right away, and how musical it is, and it reminds me of, I mean, the thing with the Beat It video, of course, and the choreography, but right the way from the very, very beginning, I got a sense that it was harkening back to what you talked about earlier on, being in black and white, obviously, and the idea of the silver screen. I don't think it was in black and white. I'm going to disagree. I don't think it was particularly noir. I think it was an attempt to go back to the sort of Rebel Without a Cause kind of era, where the screen would almost shimmer with silver. And have a certain sort of hue about it, and all those flashes of light that he would bring into it. I mean, starting with the gang fight, it took me quite a long time to work out who was who and what was in their heads, and really what story that Coppola was trying to tell us with this. I had no idea it was based on a book, for example, until the end credits started to roll. I know absolutely nothing about it, and I haven't been to look it up since either, because I maintain that is cheating. So yeah, so to me it was a completely blank thing. I didn't know whether it was going to be a crime film or whether it was going to be a love story, you know, because obviously they introduce his girlfriend pretty early in the equation. It's neither of those things, I don't think, and it's not a musical either. But I think it's a fantasy, and it's a sort of backwards fantasy. It seems to me like most fantasy movies, they take real life as their sort of point A, and the characters and the situation gradually transgresses into fantasy. I think this film sort of starts in a place of fantasy and only very occasionally makes the journey into our world. I think it's again, I mean, we mentioned David Lynch before. This was after Eraserhead and The Elephant Man, wasn't it? Both of those films were made in black and white, weren't they?
Yeah. But both those films made in black and white, I think, by need rather than design. I mean, I think they used black and white. I mean, not The Elephant Man. I think that's basically where he was most comfortable working.
With this, I think that Francis Ford Coppola uses it very tactfully, and obviously we do get the drops of color when he needs them. We don't get very much color, but when we do get it, he really wants you to notice it. It's to make a very, very specific point. But because the story is. It's lean, I think, is the polite word. It's not a great story to it. It's not very complex. In fact, I don't want to skip to later on, but I do think that it does run out of story as a result.
You see, I really disagree. I really totally disagree. See, my take on it is somewhat similar to yours. It's going from fantasy into reality. But I think it's more him going in from childhood, from adolescence. This is his journey.
Yes, it's a character. It's a character piece. I mean, when I say it runs out of story, I think that it sort of leaves its story behind in the second act, and then sort of reconnects with it in the third. And you could have probably condensed this film, but that would have been a great shame because of the elements that you talk about. Because by the time it's been on 30 or 40 minutes, the characters are so interesting, and you're engaged with them that I could have watched another hour and a half of this.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I absolutely loved it.
Opposite of showpieces, then.
Sorry?
This is the opposite of showpieces.
Yeah, I absolutely love this film. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Ian, what did you think? We're looking at just the first 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. It's very surreal. It's an okay movie. And I obviously I've seen it before. and I saw it again. And I remember the stuff that was happening when I saw it. There was, I know Francis Ford Coppola was saying it's an art film for teenagers, and that's exactly what it is. It's an art film for teenagers, and it's an art film. All right, so it's not going to be your norm. And I remember seeing it in the cinema. I remember a lot of people were disappointed because when you go to cinema sometimes and you see a film and it demands a lot from the audience.
Right.
After the film is finished and the credits going up, you can feel the mere feel of people in the cinema as they stroll out. And this is this type of film. You either like it or you don't. And I can honestly say I thought it was interesting, but a lot of people say it's a classic and it's it's a great movie. But I think it's just okay personally. Me, the photography is terrific. Of course, it's terrific because we're dealing with Francis Ford Coppola. But I did get irritated by them saying Rusty James all the time. I mean, why don't they just call him James? Rusty James. Rusty James.
This is what I was saying. That a musical without the songs. That is exactly the kind of thing. It's a repeated lyric. It's almost, and it irritated me at the start as well. But once I think I got on the page with it. I saw what he was trying to do, and I sort of succumbed to it. Really, it really did sweep me. It really did sweep me away. And I don't think I would. I don't know because, like I say, I only watched it yesterday. I'm not sure I would call it a classic either. I'm still sort of taking it in. I'm surprised. I don't think it's got.
A lot of people say it's a masterpiece, don't they?
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I think there are flaws in it, and I do think that it is. I could understand anybody coming away from this thinking that's not for me whatsoever. Yeah. So I don't think you can ever call something a masterpiece. If
just one more thing, right? Any film that demands more than the audience, any film that demands a lot from the audience, like Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2014, whatever it was called, and this film. It's never really gonna make a shitload of money, and this film is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
It was an art film, and it didn't make enough money to.
Anybody know what sort of
so,
budget it was, and what? Anybody know anything about that?
Let's have a look. 1 second.
I don't know.
If I Google Rumblefish, I'm sure it'll come up. Rumblefish.
A good fight though. Good fight in the beginning.
The fight scene was fantastic.
I love the scene, the shot where Lawrence Fishburne, as it turned out to be, throws the chain over to Rusty James, and it goes on the thing goes on.
Yeah.
Does that big kind of like Indiana Jones swing?
The bit that I liked is when the rival gang came in, and there's that sort of crash. It's like lightning coming in behind them, lightning and smoke, and they walk out onto the stage again like it's some sort of Def Leppard gig. Absolutely amazing, and it was. I'd say it was. You're talking about the first 20 to 30 minutes. By this point, I had still got no idea, really, a clear idea which decade, sorry, this was set in.
Well. I mean, because they hang out in like the milkshake shop, the milk shop, and it's got like a very 50-ish feel to it, hasn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And in the still we've got on screen, that fella on the far right there, that's a proper sort of zoot suit that he's wearing there.
Right.
It goes right out.
Glasses off, and he's totally spaced out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sweating, wasn't he? That's the look of someone who's just taken loads of drugs. Yeah.
Right.
So my first 20 minutes. I think it was around the 20-minute mark. I stopped it to see how much longer I had to go because I was just like, this is really dragging, and it didn't seem to be very coherent, and it was so stylized, like a music video. It was when the fight scene happened. That's when I sort of got more engaged into it and more interested and invested in the characters, especially during the scene where Matt Dillon's character gets stabbed. Yeah. And that seemed to be an indelible mark on his vest throughout the rest of the film, which is quite interesting.
It's over a 3-day period.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The time element of this, it was so interesting how time seemed to be sort of stretched, and you weren't quite sure how long the scene pieces were, and it had a sort of timeless quality.
You did have all those interesting shots of shadows growing and changing over.
Yeah, you had and lots of clocks and lots of water running, and also you had Yeah, I think it was the clocks that, and when people were talking quietly, you couldn't tell if it was a memory or you had to watch carefully to see if their lips were moving because it seemed like an inner dialogue, but it was.
Yes, there was definitely some of that, and some of it was deliberate. I'm certain it was.
Absolutely, it's quite dreamlike in that respect.
There's this really good line in it with what's his name, the guy from the malt shop. Was talking about like how when you're a kid you have plenty of time, you have unlimited time, just goes on forever, and then you suddenly wake up and you go, I got like 35 summers left.
That really struck me as well.
I thought
that hit me like a brick.
Yeah. Any man in their 40s is going to feel that. I mean, what you were just saying about the music video. Ian mentioned something that Francis Ford Coppola said that it was. What did he say? It was a what? Was it a crime?
Art? No, it's an art film for teens.
I'd say, you see, now I would, who would I? I'm nobody to argue with Francis Ford Coppola, but I would say that what it actually is an art film for the MTV generation. I think that it's so obviously,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Same difference. So like the whole thing with the shadows growing and everything. Again, that whole thing, it really makes me think that this is, he's being dragged very unwillingly from his childhood, which is terrible. He's had a terrible childhood, Matt Dillon, right? He's being dragged very unwillingly throughout the whole movie as everything that he believes in and cares about is.
Well, he wants to be a leader because he wants to take over from his brother. So he's put his brother on a pedestal. And he wants to emulate him in every way. I want to look like him. I want to be like him.
I think it's even beyond that. I think it's not even. He hasn't even questioned it as to what he wants. He feels that that's his destiny.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I think it's his legacy. Yeah.
Fine. So let's again. So we have this wonderful choreography of the fight. We also get a bit insight into his character, that he hangs around with this like kind of dweebish, very straight kid because they were friends growing up. So you got this like. Yeah, and also his girlfriend, which we meet like a little like 10, 15 minutes. So it says, look, you're not your brother. He says, my brother is so cool. My brother is the coolest. And she says, yeah, but you're warm. And that's really the difference between the two. Like, I really hope that he goes after this movie, he goes forward and he embraces who he actually is, I'm imprinting that desire onto the movie. I'm just hoping that's where it went. So
that's what his brother wanted for him, isn't it? That's because his brother sets everything in that last act. His brother sets that entire chain of events in motion. He knows exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
His brother.
Sorry.
His brother. Rusty James. I think he has that moment because it's the scene when he's being manhandled by the cops and he sees in color. And it's like the only sort of color we've seen is with the rumblefish in the pet shop, because his brother, the motorcycle boy, is colorblind completely, and we see the fish in color, but even he says in the film he can't see what color the fish are, but he's attracted to them and he wants to set them free, and I think the fish represents his brother Rusty James, as the fish he wants to set free. And when he goes to take the fish out and he gets shot by the police, major spoiler, Rusty James takes the fish and puts him in the river, and he takes the motorcycle and he leaves. And then the last thing you see, obviously, is that he's by the sea in California, and he's kind of taken where his brother wanted him to be because that's what his brother wanted to do for himself, but he couldn't do it. So maybe he saw he said he saw his mother. She was dating a film producer and it was all grand, and why don't you come and live with me? And I think he wanted that for his brother. So maybe that's where it was heading, that he would go and find her and everything.
Also, another thing that I realized by watching it again was that Stevie, the guy with the glasses, the geeky fella, he was basically
I see him as a narrator.
Well, no, he was the voice of reason. He was his conscience, wasn't he? He was Matt Dillon's conscience, because he was literally saying things that he should be doing, but he he isn't doing, if you know what I mean.
So maybe he's not a real person. Maybe he's not actually really there.
I think he was there because they did. I mean, they did.
Other people
to him. Yeah, other people recognized him and stuff like that. But I think that was deliberate in the film. The problem with the film is it's very simple, and it's not rocket science to understand what's going on.
The story's simple. I don't think it's a simple film, but the story's simple.
No, I think it's a simple film, and everything is plain. It's just there, as I said, with the fish. It was obvious that he was going to try and release his brother. That was the metaphor for releasing his brother, and everything was just laid bare for it. The stuff that I thought was really when he came out of his body. When he came out of his body,
I love that scene.
I love that scene. Yeah, it was really interesting.
It was amazing. I've got no idea why it happened when it happened.
Exactly. So.
I'll tell you why. I mean, I'm not Francis Coppola. I can't ask him. But
that's the bit I haven't figured out.
Yeah, I think what was going on there, like every point of that movie is a deconstruction. He's being unwillingly deconstructed.
It's very existentialist in its sort of search for meaning. Yeah.
Right. So I think that he reached that point, which is about 2/3 of the way through the movie, when he has this out of body experience after being clobbered in the head in an alleyway by a couple of hoodlums, and he has this astral projection. He goes and sees his friends although that's all his fantasy. That's his perception of reality, which is about to radically change. His whole perception of reality is radically. But I think there was him doing a summation of where his life was right now, and that's why I think he visited his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend at that point, and saw his friends. And again, this is his perception, but that perception is about to be totally ripped away from him.
Yeah, I honestly thought that it was for me, it was too slow for my liking, and
it was a little too slow.
Yeah, it was too slow, and as I said, it demanded too much of the audience. I mean, it's all right to be flashy with the photography and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it amounts to nothing, in my opinion. I didn't care about any of the characters. I thought Mickey Rourke's character. I thought the performances were good, but I didn't care about anyone. Even when the father came in, the first time you see Dennis Hopper and he's drinking and they all go on the bed and stuff like that. To me, that's weird. That doesn't seem like real life to me at all.
What I think that was demonstrating how this was a very dysfunctional family unit, an extremely dysfunctional family unit that doesn't follow it, but they all kind of love each other. They all love each other, and there is that bond.
I thought it was very sweet. And you can see the affection there throughout the film. Like when Motorcycle Boy is taking his brother on the motorcycle. And you can see there's an affection there because he's sort of putting his head on his shoulder and he feels safe. He feels comfortable. He's like a child again. And he feels like he's with his brother. He's come back and he's protecting him. And I think that's a very sweet moment, actually. I think it's quite understated.
If you watch to the end of the credits, which I did by accident because I was doing something else and the credits were rolling, the last card on it is says dedicated to his brother. I can't remember the name of his brother. The best teacher. August. August, yeah, it's still the best teacher I've ever had. So that's I think gives you quite significant insight into what was going on here.
I mean, it's the relationship with him and his girlfriend.
Right, that's it. I just pulled her up. Who is now in the Snyderverse, Clark Kent's mother.
Yeah,
so,
Martha.
And so is Lawrence Fishburne, fun enough. He plays
Barry White.
He does, yeah.
Barry White.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
I thought Diane Lane was
gorgeous
in this.
Gorgeous.
Absolutely stunning.
Absolutely gorgeous.
But the way, how subtle she was. I mean, I've never seen Matt Dillon be as good in anything as he was in this. But Diane Lane, I thought, again, she's one of these characters in this. Without her playing that so straight and so well, and those little lines like the line about being warm, just judging that absolutely perfectly because she's playing she's playing a little more than a child, really. She's playing somebody of 17, 18. And yet to deliver things like that, it's very pure what she wants out of life at this point. And
she's with a bit of rough.
Yeah,
and she's rebelling. She's rebelling in her own way. The mother seems to be not.
When
not
the mother
very
says,
keen,
"My boyfriend
she's
used to take me out."
yeah, but she's kind of knows better than to try and tell her what to do, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But the nuance from that performance is spectacular. Even with her eyes, she's so expressive with her eyes. She doesn't even really have to say much, but you can immediately sense what she's feeling, which is
what I wondered at first. I don't know if you noticed this one problem being how you feel about this. When it started, I felt that he was very much. They were setting it up that he was her sort of fantasy figure. She was the kind of boyfriend that she thought she wanted. But in the end, it turns out, that really that he had he'd put her up on this pedestal.
Yeah,
it turned into this sort of deity almost.
Well, you can see it when he's dreaming of her in the classroom, and he's sort of seeing her. Yeah. Sort of just in her lingerie, and he's having this sort of fantasy, and then he fucks it up because he's obviously on a sort of self-destruction kick.
Yeah, he sleeps with another girl.
Well, there's an orgy scene, isn't there? In that they break into a house.
That's interesting. That brings in Nicolas Cage's character, who is essentially Matt Dillon. That if the gangs are still here, he'll be the boss, and Nicolas Cage would be his number one, right? His first lieutenant or second, whatever it is.
But he was very underdeveloped in this. He sort of was there, then he wasn't there, and then all of a sudden he's got his girlfriend. And
that was the clever bit because he
stayed quiet. Yeah,
he's always at his shoulder, and just like Ian just said, it's got a lot of the things about this are classical, are Shakespearean. You just mentioned Othello, didn't you? Yeah. And that's why the influences are all over this. So they're not particularly well disguised. I don't think that's what he wanted to do with the film. I think he wanted to make it as obvious as he possibly could so that he could play with the visual aspects of it and get inside the characters' heads that little bit more and present them in the kind of story that we would recognize as having these classical roots and just sort of turn it around a little. Because it did take me, I was dizzy from this.
Also, did you recognize the sound of the clock ticking mostly through the film? And it was always there. It was always there. In other words, what Coppola was saying was that time's running out, and then you have that dialogue from Tom Waits when he was talking about time. Teenagers don't see time. When you're a teenager, you have all the time in the world, and you really reach Yeah, it unfortunately for this film, it was very heavy-handed. It wasn't very subtle, with the tick.
Well, you got massive bloody clock struck.
Exactly.
On the side of a van.
It wasn't very subtle. It was huge. You know what I mean? So
that's what I meant by MTV generation. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's highly stylized. I mean, it is quite out of time and in time, and it's in flux, but. Another thing I'd say about Diane's character is as well that at the end, I think she still loved him because she was very concerned about him, but she wanted to teach him a lesson. She was wearing the low plunging dress, and she was there to meet, the.
Oh, I think Nicolas Cage walked away with her completely.
I don't think so. I think that she was kind of. I still think she had a hankering. I think she sort of just felt that she had to be with someone. Because she was always telling him how smart he was, just not with words. But with Nicolas Cage, I guess she just felt that he was someone who was a bit more on her level intellectually. But I think she still had a hankering for Rusty James.
Yeah, she loves Rusty James.
Yeah, I think at the end she was only with him because she felt that he was more reliable. And that he wasn't going to screw around, but he was at that party as well, wasn't he? As far as I can remember.
Yeah, exactly. But like, the point was, he set up the whole party so he would find out, and and he's still recovering from the fight, and he wouldn't be. It was very Machiavellian, and that scene when it's revealed, which is towards the end of the movie, is such an incredible, like stab in the back over and over and over again.
Very calmly done.
Very calmly done. But I'm
and the shot with the clouds, the clouds rolling over his head really fast as well. That was so brilliantly done.
And that was reflected in the window. The cloud. But again, all these things I think are formative experiences of how that experience right then. In fact, the experience over these 3 days or how long it is creating the person, the adult that Matt Dillon will be. I think.
See, here, this shot reminds me of Back to the Future 2.
Yeah,
I had that in my head as well.
For some reason.
And wasn't the score the same score that they use in every film?
I think so.
from the
I think
80s?
so.
Oh,
Yeah.
it could be the same clock for all we know.
Might be. It might be.
And the cop character was quite an interesting character as well.
Very well cast. He looked menacing.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Looked very menacing.
So I have a feeling we're jumping ahead to the end, but I have a feeling that firstly Mickey Rourke's character totally knew that he was setting up his fate to be killed.
Absolutely.
I think part of the motivation of that was to set his brother free. But do you think he had any other motivations going on? Because he's a very hard character to read.
Well, he said, didn't he? He had that line, well, even the most primitive society has an innate respect for the insane. So I think he just already, because when he was asked about whether or not someone's crazy or insane, he says, well, it was the milk bar guy, wasn't it? He said, first of all, you have to ask them if they think they're insane. So he definitely feels that he's reached at the end of his time, that he is uncontrollable. He wants to be a better person. He can't. That's why he's come back. He probably screwed up massively over in California.
I get the impression that finding the mother had a graver effect on him than he certainly communicates with words.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think he didn't go down too well.
Obviously, he was 4 years older when she left, and what does the dad say? You're just like her. What was the relationship? What was the family unit like?
Well, again, it seems to me that the father, like Dennis Hopper and Mickey Rourke, are the super intelligent and kind of out there people, which is why I think Dennis Hopper's character is massive alcoholic throughout the whole thing. There was something a bit that I really liked after Rusty James gets cut in the fight and Mickey Rourke shows up and brings him home, and they're trying to look after him. He's looking for alcohol, which is just stashed everywhere, all these empty bottles. Looking for alcohol to sterilize the wound with, which, I guess that, they're very open about living, what it is to, live with alcoholic, live with these, again, really terrible way. This is pretty much Shameless without the comedy. They're living.
I kept expecting it to break into sort of more of a comedic thing right from the start. It was so stylized and snappy, and calling him what's his name again? The one the
motorcycle boy.
James.
Rusty James.
Rusty James. They kept saying Rusty James. It was just like, this is going to break into some kind of snappy kind of comedy scene.
No, that didn't happen, did it?
Didn't happen. And then we had that James motorcycle boy's junkie girlfriend. She was a strange character as well.
Yeah, she was.
Well, wasn't she like some sort of supply teacher or something at the school?
Yeah, he says. Yeah, Matt Dillon says that she's a supply teacher, but yeah, she was a junkie, and then she dances with him when they go to that fair and stuff like that. You see, there are scenes in this movie that are just slow and doesn't mean anything, and
didn't lead anywhere.
Didn't lead anywhere, and that's the problem with this film. All right, not every film has to be a solid, thing, but for an audience, of course, for an audience, it has to be. But
I think she sort of represented the hopelessness of his situation.
That's why she's there. We're not supposed to be looking at her during that scene. We're supposed to be looking at him. And how he reacts to it. He's quite happy to become sort of hypnotized by her, and the fact that Rusty James, he thinks that he knows what she's about and what their relationship is about, but he's completely wrong because he's got his brother up on this pedestal. He doesn't realize and won't accept that this woman is somebody that his brother considers himself to be a match, that they are equals, that they are, they don't belong together, but that it's right that they spend whatever time they do spend together doing whatever, that they are on that level, that they are creatures of the same, of a kind,
cut off the same cloth.
And he can't accept that because his brother is like
he's lionizing
the dog's bollocks.
He desperately wants to be cut from the same cloth as his brother. He desperately wants to be, and he sees her, and he doesn't want to be her. Right, so
contradiction he can't face.
Sorry.
That's the contradiction he can't understand. Can't
Yeah,
face.
exactly. So I imagine his mother is going back to the thing. I imagine she's much more like him in that she's probably not that intellectual compared to the brother. Or
well, she's married to the film producer, wasn't she? That's a very important fact, I think.
But is she? I mean, is he not? Maybe he's making that story up to make his brother feel like he's better.
I did wonder about that, but he knows his brother's going to go looking because he sets it up. So he knows that he'll find out whether he's lying or not. That Rusty James will find out, and he does seem to care
because that hit him really hard, didn't it? Because he feels like. Because he'd say, "Oh, she's been missing in my life and things like that," and then the father's like, "You didn't lose anyone, I did. He didn't."
But it begs the question, right? It begs the question: why didn't he just tell him? Why play all these stupid games? Why didn't he just say, "Look, you need to go and visit your mum. Here's the bike. Here's the keys. Go visit your mum, right?"
Because he knew he wouldn't have done it.
Go and visit your mum.
Because because the brother. He'd got no intention of going back. His future does not lie there at all. He doesn't, for whatever reason, he's found out all he needs to know.
But why does he have to die so his brother could live? Made no sense.
Because as long as he's still around, he's gonna still look up to him and try and follow what.
And in other words, why didn't he give him the keys, and give him the bike, and say, "Go and visit your mum"? Therefore, they're not in the same area. They're separated. So he could find out for himself. He didn't.
He would never have gone. He would never have gone without him.
That's just a physical move.
I think
because he actually said that, didn't he? Are you going to come with me? He's like, no, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't go.
If he's because he idolized him so much, I think if he was forceful enough, Rusty James would go. But then that's not the movie, right? The movie has to be this kind of artistic thing, and all that stuff.
It's the Motown sort of song, isn't it? About the guy on the bike who dies in a blaze of glory. It's that kind of thing. I mean, it's got this sort of mythic quality to it. In some ways, I don't think any of you are into Twin Peaks. This reminded me. This reminded me more of Twin Peaks than a lot of David Lynch's own movies. I see in them the characters of James Hurley and Bobby and that scene of is it?
I wouldn't go that far.
James Hurley on the motorbike when he's going across the bridge in the pilot in the original film of Twin Peaks reminded me of when they go off riding on the motorbike on that.
Right.
I have to think and the music. I'm sure that this is a big influence on Twin Peaks, and the fact that the guy who plays Ben Horne in Twin Peaks was in West Side Story when he was a younger man. There's just too many sort of connecting parts to this to sort of remove one.
I mean, a lot of effort and thought went into this movie, and you could see it. It comes off the screen, but it didn't. For me, it didn't work as an entertaining film. The shadows when he's playing snooker and the shadow of the back wall, that was all painted on. That wasn't. That was literally painted on. It wasn't made by any kind of light source. They literally painted it on the wall, and they did a lot of that stuff. They were talking about the house where Martha lives, and they painted the tree shadows on the house. Wow. They didn't create those shadows; they painted it on the house.
I love that they did that.
So there's a lot of thought went into this movie. Every shot and every thing you can see in that movie was deliberate.
Have they ever done it on the stage? Does anybody know? Because this would be great on Broadway in the West End, and the way most of the scenes you could easily stage this on the stage, and maybe he was aware of that too. Like I said, I have no idea. It's fascinating. I am going to go and read up about this later or at the weekend.
It's interesting.
It does make you want to look into it more. That's very true. Let's talk about there's this really interesting set piece. I think pretty much in the middle, where they go out on a night together. Here, Rusty James, his friend, his dweeby friend, and his brother, right? And they go this. It just kind of this really reminded me of my teenage years. Like you'll just suddenly be in this place where it's a little bit too old for you, and you're a little bit out your depth, but it's really cool, and you're really enjoying it. Like this is me when I was 16, 17. I was like,
when the music kicks in that, and they all start dancing. It's
right. And it's
brings back memories.
But you know what? It's that golden age of this golden moment of your of childhood You know, adolescence, I would say, more than childhood. Which again,
when things were exciting.
These are all very formative experiences, and that's what I think is going on with Matt Dillon's character. Everything is a formative experience to who the person that he's going to be that we eventually see at the end by the sea. Like, is he his brother? Is he his own person? I hope he's his own person. You know, I hope he finds he stops in some town somewhere and gets a job and just settles down and is happy. That's what I think
that's what they're pointing you towards. That this, because he's practically hallucinating through the entire film.
Well, he's totally concussed, isn't he? And stabbed, and he's not altogether with it at all.
Terrible.
So, until the coppers, until they throw him against the body of the police car, and you get the flash of colour. He's in that state, that sort of transient state.
There was a moment of reality, a wake up call. He saw through his brother's eyes in a way. The color was the sort of representing the fish and the change and the realization. He saw it in color. I think that was a turning point. And it seems a bit of a strange thing to be shot for stealing a bunch of fish and releasing a load of puppies and birds from a pet.
I know that's the problem.
But that copper had it in from him.
But he would have been shot for resisting arrest, wouldn't he?
But it's just too simplistic. The whole film's too simplistic, and some of the stuff doesn't make any sense. As I said, I've got brothers, but I wouldn't die so they can go and find their life. I guess that's the art of the film.
You're not this weird, introspective gang leader without a gang. This is basically, a gang leader who would read the Art of Sun Tzu, the Art of War, by Sun Tzu. Like, he's a very intellectual guy, and that's why I think there's a lot more going on than the story with his brother. I think he has a lot more motivations.
Do you think the brother is an alcoholic as well, Rabbi?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't
definitely
think so.
No. Because he keeps picking up the bottle. He's looking at it. I think he wants to drink it, but I think he's obviously in some form of remission. Yeah. And the younger brother, I think they're all alcoholic, or the younger brother is trying to be like his brother, like his father, because he emulates everything his brother did. So that's why he's drinking so heavily. I think that's why his older brother, the motorcycle boy, is a recovering alcoholic. And I think that's why he's had more clarity of thought to realize what he needs to do to save his brother, to not be like his father, and to not make the same mistakes, and to set his brother on the right path. That's how I see it.
Right. I kind of want to read the book, but not really.
I'll be honest, I really like the film, but I've got no intention of reading the book of this. No, not at all.
Maybe I'll look on Wikipedia on the crib notes to find out. I wonder what the author thought of it.
He was listed as the co-screenwriter with Francis Ford Coppola in the credits.
Yeah.
So presumably he was quite keen. I
guess so. So the budget was $10 million, and it made 2.5 in the cinema.
I mean, I think that's understandable because it was an art film, and as I said, you had the pull of Matt Dillon and Mickey Rourke, and they were quite big in those days. And so the audience went to see it, and then they were disappointed, and then they told people they were disappointed, and people didn't go and see it. So that's how it works.
Movie. People aren't going to be. This is not going to be a popcorn flick. Although $10 million, it's actually quite a decent budget.
I think that it's more important that nobody would go to a Francis Ford Coppola film expecting a popcorn flick, but they would probably expect a Francis Ford Coppola movie, and this doesn't look like one. And so I would say that it's probably taken decades for a lot of his own fan base to come around to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad film, but it's not a great film, and it's not a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Jaws is a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned.
It's an hour and a half long music video without music.
Without music,
but kind of not.
So far we seem to be breaking evenly on both movies. It's like
it's a fable. I mean, it's not attempting to tell anything on a grand, like a tapestry, and it's not attempting to necessarily be reality, but it's making a statement about real life and about real people.
It's a film for concussed people.
No, again, I
screen it in A&E.
Yeah. Okay, so this, I will agree it's not a masterpiece, but what I do think it is, I think there are elements of it that are masterpieces. Like again, the cinematography, the part of
But that's not enough to save the movie, Rabbi. It's not enough, and this is the thing that I've always been talking about as a filmmaker, right? You can't, because one part of the film is great. Everybody seems to think, oh, it's a masterpiece, but it's not, because it doesn't deliver what a film's supposed to do.
I'm saying it's a very interesting movie, which I
that's not enough.
Yeah, I think whether it entertains any of us is obviously completely subjective. But does it have an objective value? Is it an objective failure because of everything that it tries to do?
No,
and I don't think it is an objective failure. I don't.
I think it suffers a bit of pretension. I think it
does.
Yes. It's overly stylized when it doesn't really need to be. The story doesn't. It doesn't require it. I think some of the performances are a bit over the top. Some of them are a bit too understated. So you got that kind of imbalance between the sort of one character to the other. But there are some standout moments. There are some standout scenes, and the choreography is incredible. But I think it's a bit over bloated for what it is. I think they could have condensed it into half the length.
As I said, when I was I wasn't at college, I wasn't at film school, but I was equivalent of that, a low budget version of a film school. And when I used to talk to students, and you talk about Rumblefish or any other film that was kind of artistic or whatever, I would always have this argument. Look, having great photography in the film doesn't make a film great. Do you know what I mean? It's the whole thing that makes a film great.
Well, I think it suffers from
doesn't work. Then the film doesn't work.
I think it suffers from the fact that I don't think it knows what it is. I don't think it knows what it is.
That's right.
Honestly, again, as a character study, which is what it is, and this guy's having a terrible day. Just over the
somewhat
over the course of the movie, he gets stabbed, he gets clobbered. His brother comes back and rocks his world completely. He gets clobbered. He gets expelled or suspended from school. He breaks up with his girlfriend. Has a stolen from him. Gets mugged, and his brother gets killed. This is not a good couple of days for him, and I think he holds out quite well, through it. But again, as a character study of an adolescent going through that moment of change from adolescence to adulthood, it's fascinating. It's and quite beautiful in places as well,
Can you imagine if this was shot the same way and with a decent script, with characterization, with the bringing you into Rusty James and the rest of them? The film would have been a much better movie.
But is this how
made it money back?
Is this how the writer intended it to? Is this how the novelist?
I can't think one character. I don't know. On a quite a layered level. I mean, Matt Dillon, obviously. I think Stevie, he's again. There are lots of layers to the character. Nicolas Cage's character is an onion. He goes inside. You find out who he is. Okay, Chris Penn, you don't get that much of, but he's in it for 10 seconds.
Remember that he slaps himself in the face.
Yeah, he's like steroidal. But Matt Dillon and Mickey Rourke and Diane. Sorry, what's her name?
Dennis Hopper's.
Dennis Hopper's great.
Everybody's
you get my point, don't you? You get my point. If they made it more palatable for the audience, this film would have probably made more than 10 million.
It would have been Ian, it would have been unrecognizable. It would have been unrecognizable for the film that they wanted to make and the story.
Right, exactly.
Obviously, I haven't read the book, but
they chose to make it this way. It's the same thing with Jaws. Jaws is nothing like the movie at all. But Spielberg had enough. Had enough imagination to realize that if he did the book, audience wasn't going to warm to it. And it's the same thing with this as well.
Warm to it either.
It's about knowing your audience.
Exactly.
Spielberg knew his audience. That was a big studio picture.
Sorry, Rabbi. Sorry, what you said?
Coppola wasn't into pleasing his audience.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what I'm making. If you like it, great.
Yeah,
I hope you like it. But then this is basically when his career hit shipwreck. This is when his career was. He had incredible success with The Godfather, which is him just making a movie he wanted to make, which happened to be a lot of people wanted to see it, right?
Yep.
And then he did Apocalypse Now, which we were like, what? Okay,
yeah, exactly.
And he's just doing stuff for himself, and it just yeah, again, you're absolutely right. His career imploded. His career absolutely self-destructed. Well, I just want to say something interesting about the budget. So this had a 10 million budget. Star Wars, which was 6 years earlier, had an 11 million budget. So like. What was inflation like between 77 and 83?
That's a lot of paint. That's a lot of paint for painting houses and scenes.
Putting shadows on houses, right?
But that's what I'm saying. It all depends on the management. If Coppola is demanding X amount and the producers demand X amount, whatever you're left to make the movie is whatever you're left to make that movie. With Star Wars, obviously George Lucas wanted the film to be good, so he mostly spent most of that money on what you see on the screen. So, I mean, it all depends on the management, really.
Right, yeah. I'm just looking at his filmography. He just came off a major bomb with One from the Heart. That was in 82. And Hammett, I'd never even seen. Then he did Outside of Wrong Fish, he did Cotton Club. And that was basically the end of his he did okay movies after that. Like, I think the only movie after this that he did...
He did one with Robin Williams, right? Robin Williams? He did one with Robin Williams, I think. Where he was a child in a man's body. I can't remember that film. I think he directed it. What's it called?
Jack, I believe.
Jack. Yeah. Jack. Yeah.
No, for me, the Coppola's last watchable movie was Bram Stoker's Dracula, which nobody likes apart from me.
I love that, and it reminds me a little bit of this.
I love it.
Yeah, I liked it.
The shadow work, because in Dracula. They had this whole, it's incredible. You had this whole, like, the opening sequences with, we're going off a bit of a tangent here, obviously, but the opening sequences when he's in Dracula's castle and the shadows are reflected on the walls. There's other people doing the shadows and like this shadow, like, actors.
Yeah. With the hand, the clawing hand.
Yeah. Okay. Bram Stoker's Dracula, that's on the list.
That's on the list.
Oh dear.
It's not as well. The thing is with the Coppola's Dracula. I know we're on an aside, but apart from the BBC's 1979 or 78 production of it, are the most accurate to the actual novel. I mean, a lot of people criticize Coppola's Dracula for not being very accurate to the novel, but it's actually one of the very few that actually is very close. It's not absolutely, but I mean, it's similar. It's the most similar.
He went to great lengths to bill it as Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, there's a lot of changes in that. Like the scene where he's copping off with Lucy, and it's all consensual, and it's really not, not Lucy, the other one.
Mina.
Mina. Is it Mina or Lucy? Which one was?
Winona Ryder or the other
Winona Ryder's character.
Or Sadie Frost.
Oh my God! Okay, Dracula's
Mina.
I'm remembering. This is seared into my memory. That there's all these people that are running around wearing nothing but a very see-through like gown, and it was very see-through. And what year was that? That was that was the year that they had perfected the slow-mo technology on a VC video recorder, which I used
with impunity.
Telling us more than we care to know, there, Rabbi.
Well, listen, look, it's a rabbi from another planet. You're always going to get a bit.
But you know what, right? Seriously though, with filmmakers like Francis Ford Coppola, they're kind of like digging their own grave, really, because he is so artistic in his head, and he's so masterful of what he does, and he's very much into. But he doesn't realize that he's killing his career, because when you're in that position, you need to talk to the audience as well. And the only time he's actually talked to the audience successfully is the Godfather films. Let's face it,
He's very aloof. He's very aloof, and aloof filmmaker.
Yeah. So like like most directors, as I said, I think Spielberg and Hitchcock are probably the two best directors in the entire world so far, in my opinion.
In terms of like using the craft properly, I would say.
So those two were like, okay, we can be artistic with shadows. Even when you look at Indiana Jones, you know, the shadows on the wall and stuff, and he, you know,
Awesome,
he was very close to the B picture thing and stuff like that. And when you look at Hitchcock films, Psycho shot that in black and white when they had color in those days. You know what I mean? They're very artistic, but what they didn't do was ignore the audience. They didn't ignore the audience. They wanted the audience to have a ride. And
that's what filmmakers choose. Doesn't he chosen his audience for this though? He knows who. I mean, I don't know who the trailers were pitched at.
His audience is him. This is his audience. He was very open about. I do what I want. I do what I want.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can't do that. You're if you're a filmmaker, okay, you can be an artistic filmmaker and don't give a shit about anything else. Yeah, we've established that. But the best ones are the ones that find the halfway where they're artistic as well as talking to the audience as well.
Okay, well, I don't think you should be able to. I don't think you should entirely shut out your audience or understand.
Yeah, I agree.
Your audience. But I mean, this harkens back to what we were saying last week with the Alan Moore thing. Is that I mean, there is always going to be a sort of tension between the creator and the audience. And sometimes, like with music and in different art forms, you make art for yourself, and if you like it, someone else will. There is a sort of balance. That I agree. There has to be a sort of address a balance.
That's the problem. Okay,
especially if you want to make your money back.
The movie we have to review then at some point is AI, which is a Francis Ford Coppola conception script directed by Spielberg. Oh no!
I hated that movie. Hated it.
The ending sucked. It was a good movie until the ending.
I've never seen it, so please don't say anything.
Oh my god!
I'll shut
AI. It sucked.
AI up.
That's
the northern version. AI.
I think we'll go around the panel, do a summation of Rumblefish. Next week is Blazing Saddles. I think okay. Then it might be our first. Oh, by the way, I really wanted to see if we can get Az somehow to come on. Az and Noel. I think Az would be
awesome.
I get the impression that Az likes these kind of films.
Yes. Problem being, let's start with you. What's your how would you? Somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm thinking of watching Rumblefish." What would you say?
Like with anything else, I think if you haven't seen something and someone recommends it or someone says, you know, have you seen this? Obviously, it must have some sort of interest to somebody to suggest it. So, no, I've seen it because it was suggested to me, obviously for these purposes, but still. Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one to place. It is not a film that I feel I would recommend, particularly to anyone. I mean, oh God, I'm slightly biased because Matt Dillon's gorgeous. It's an oddity. It's something I'd say. Well, if you want to see like these famous actors as they were back then, you know, I mean, Lawrence Fishburne, barely in it, but he's this kind of striking sort of character. Yeah, it's an interesting piece of art. Yeah. But it took a while for me to get into it. I think it's a character study. If someone's doing psychology or something like that, I'd suggest it to them. I think it's a real hardcore film buff kind of film, really, and it's not really for me. But I did sort of feel for the characters. I know Ian didn't particularly, but I did kind of feel sort of a pang for what was going on in the characters. So there is that, and you did kind of want the best things to happen, but there's a lot of surrealist moments in there, and you kind of not quite sure it's somehow out of place, but it somehow works.
Yeah, I think the whole movie.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I can't quite place it, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough. Dan, what do you think?
Well, how I judge, and this is how I judge whether a movie has been worthwhile and therefore a good experience, It's, am I still thinking about it in a positive way? Am I still reflecting on it 24 hours later, 48 hours later? Am I still thinking about the things that it's asked me and the images that it's put in front of me? And am I still with those characters somehow? This is nearly 24 hours on from when I watched this film, and I'm still with those characters. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still engaged with it. I'm still processing it. Obviously, coming to speak about it with you, gentlemen, that may have extended that process. I don't know. But generally, I wouldn't blanket recommend this to everybody. Of course I wouldn't. It's not the kind of... I don't think that was the intention behind this film. I don't think that's who it was aimed at either. I would recommend it to some people. And I'd say if somebody was to say to me, should I watch Rumblefish? I would say, pick your evening carefully. It's on the right night of the week. Good advice. On the right night of the week, this could be the best thing that you'd seen all year. On the wrong night of the week,
if you've had concussion, I would highly recommend this film.
You know what I mean? If you've had, maybe you've been out the night before, you're feeling a bit groggy, or you just want to sort of be washed away by something and by some people, because I do think this
would make your hangover worse.
This is I do feel this is a character piece. This is deliberately not driven by plot. And if you submit to it, and if you're willing to go with it on a particular night of the week or night of your life, it's a place that it's worthwhile going to. But I would recommend it with certain sort of
provisos.
Yeah, I really would.
Fair enough. Mega Geek, there you go. Now we'll all get behind the bunker.
Mega critic.
Would I recommend it? Yes, I would recommend it. But
okay, I have to say that's a surprise.
Yeah, but I would say that it's a hard slog to people if they ask me, and it is a hard slog. The problem, obviously, I had with the movie, again, is that it looks fantastic, but its style or the substance, which I'm not a fan of at all. I'm a fan of style and substance in my movies. So this film had style, but it didn't have substance. Didn't care about any of the characters, I've got to admit. I didn't care about any of them, especially Mickey Rourke's character. I didn't care about him. He was talking too slow. He was babbling most of the time.
Well, this is what I was saying. The balance between the characters was. I mean, considering he wants to be like his older brother, and I mean, they're totally different people.
Anything. Yes, I'm saying I couldn't see anything that Matt Dillon. I couldn't see any attraction. Why would you want to be him?
That's a very good point.
What I mean? Why would you?
Why would you want to be him?
Yeah. Why would you want to be him?
He's strikingly good looking. He's good at everything.
No, he's not.
He appears to have the answer. He appears to have the answer to just about every question you can imagine.
If he had the answer, they wouldn't be living in a hovel. That's the thing. He doesn't have any of the answers.
No, but that's not a world of his making, though, is it? That's
no, that's not the point. The point is that he's not to me. I guess to you, he's attractive, but to me, he's not anyone that I would want to be. If this guy...
No, but you can see why he would. He's 17 and this guy's 21. He appears to have all the ansers. So he's gone away and come back with some more answers.
That's actually a line in the movie when Steve says, "Is there anything he can't do?" He has got this reputation.
Yeah, but the thing is that a lot of people say that, but you don't see.
But he's come back. He's come back a changed person.
What I mean? He's come back a changed person. But the thing is, though, that's for the audience. That doesn't work. Right? If a character in the
Rusty
film
James doesn't recognise that.
Hold on.
Rusty James doesn't see that change. He doesn't. Everybody else can see it. It is the point because the audience can see it. The rest of the cast can see it.
Audience can't see it.
Yes, they can.
How?
Yes, they can. They can. That's the point of the script. The only person that can't see it is Rusty James.
Look. The audience can't see that this guy is great because he doesn't do anything great. The only thing he did was obviously hit the guy with his bike, which was quite cool.
That was amazing.
I love that. That was great. But no, I mean, I don't understand why anyway, it's all to do with the history that's not in the film. See, that's my problem. If there was something that Mickey Rourke did something that was amazing in the film, then you can understand why Matt Dillon's character would be so... I want to be him, but he doesn't. the only thing that he does is hit a guy with a bike. I don't understand. But anyway, the bottom line is, I would recommend it, but I would warn people. It's Francis Ford Coppola, and it was well shot and it's well performed, but to me, it isn't a very good movie personally. That's my take on it. But
we can only be honest. So, so my take on it, it's because I haven't seen this years and years and years. I haven't seen this for about must be about 20, maybe 25 years. So the first time I saw it was in London in the Everyman Cinema in Hampstead, which is a very artsy cinema. So the scene in it where Rusty James and Mickey Rourke they go to that party and it's a little bit too old for them. That fair. That was kind of like my introduction to this movie. I felt so cool being here watching this with all these like bearded intellectuals in Hampstead. But that being said,
saw it in that cinema too.
Oh really?
Yeah,
the same print. They probably got the same print.
It might be.
So watching it again is really, really interesting. It's my whole take on it. This is about his growth. That might be me imprinting on it. That's stuff I think about a lot in general, anyway. But listen. If somebody asks me to say it, I'll say, listen, just breathtaking cinematography, breathtaking. Which even if the story was completely unengaging, which I don't think it was, I think the story actually really did engage me. It's worth watching for the cinematography alone, but I think there's more into that. I like all the performances. I think the performances are a bit disparate. I think Coppola says, "You do what you want to do, you do it," and it kind of everyone's this family unit doesn't.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I felt from it.
That's exactly not true because they did the previs. They did the whole film on video, so they knew exactly what they were saying. So they were directed. Yeah. So that's not true. They didn't allow them to go off script or anything like that. So.
I like the I like this window into this other universe. I always like windows into universes that I'm not privy to, and I really wouldn't want to go to. Quite frankly, I like the characterization. I really like Matt Damon's Matt Dillon's characters a lot.
Matt Damon.
He was in the background. I really felt a lot for him, and I really liked him a lot. Even though he made a lot of mistakes, he was very stupid.
Yeah, Matt Dillon was quite a compelling character. I think. Yeah.
You know what? I wish he had some kind of like father that could take him under his arm and help him become the person that he really should be. Even the father's reaction to the death of his older son was underwhelming.
Nonplussed.
It's like, oh well, I see that one coming.
Where's the drink?
You know what? I mean, he did. That's the truth. But I listen. Great performances, great career starting. If you're okay with something not being mainstream and not being easy to go down, then wholeheartedly. If that's going to be a problem, so I would never recommend this to my wife in a million years. But again, if you're somebody really interested in interesting cinematic experiences, it's a must watch. If you like interesting cinematic experiences, which this is, it's an absolute must watch. I think it's a very, reasonably important piece of cinema as well. In that it's been like a lot of things came out of it. Also, look, Coppola, even though he is up his own arse quite a lot, it's always nice to see a master. Even when it doesn't come out, but it's not a perfect movie by a long shot. It's a very interesting movie. It's a very interesting movie you haven't seen before.
I was told that the bar scene with Dennis Hopper. I was told that went for 62 takes or something like that. because he was trying to make it up and he wasn't sticking to the script and he was trying to make it up as he went along.
Really?
He couldn't remember the script. I was told. Actually, I think I saw it in a documentary about it that they'd done that 62 times, some nonsense like that. But you know,
as a film extra, I know what that feels like, especially when we were filming Solo. I mean, when we had the original 2 directors, God, they were encouraging the actors to basically improvise.
Yeah.
And it went on and on and on, and my character was in the background going up and down stairs for like 18 hours.
You should have waved when you.
Oh my God, I was dead at the end of it. No, it's horrible.
Would you like that we know that the Snyder Cut of Justice League is coming in 6 months or so? Would you like to see a Lord and Miller cut of Solo?
Yes. But I don't think they filmed enough, because when I was there, they hadn't filmed. There was so much, because they spent so much time faffing about with one shot. Like they took about 23 takes of one shot in over a period of a week. No, it doesn't exist. Trust me.
End on this. This is what they should do. Or should have done with Solo. They should have just retained that entire cast. All the sets, all the props, everything, and make a totally different movie. Make a gritty, like crime caper in which Han Solo and Lando Calrissian were minor characters. It was like Han Solo was like the kid, and he was about the only one who survived at the end, or one of the few people who survived, and he doesn't end up with the Millennium Falcon. That's what it should have been, and that would have been real, like a Peckinpah kind of like.
You didn't like Lando falling in love with a robot? You didn't like that? I'm surprised.
Although I thought he was great as Lando. I really did. I thought he was
yeah, I did too.
Trash though it was.
It was terrible.
So next
that movie was terrible. Sorry.
It wasn't as bad as they make it. I mean, I think it suffered because of the change of vibe, because they put it in the hands of a director who was competent rather than willing. And I think that if they left, if Kathleen Kennedy had left it in the hands of these guys, I mean, it would have gone over budget like 3 times, because they just spent so much time faffing about. It was unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, I seriously, I could tell you a whole bunch of stories, but unfortunately, I've signed my soul to Disney, so they would sue me.
For the mouse.
The mouse owns me.
Next week we have a fun movie. Actually, we've got 2 fun movies coming up in the next couple of weeks. Blazing Saddles. If you haven't seen that, go and get it somewhere. It is memory of the great Mel Brooks. And I thought the week afterwards we'll do the Adventures of Baron Munchausen. I want to know, is that
two great movies?
And I like Blazing Saddles. Of course, I don't know anyone that doesn't like that movie, but Baron, it was okay.
Oh, I love it.
A
classic. It's a masterpiece.
I've seen both of those films, but I haven't seen Blazing Saddles since I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Really?
It's still funny.
Wow.
I didn't like it when I was a kid, but I'll probably like it now.
Oh my God. It's not my favorite. Yeah, Young Frankenstein's my favorite.
I love Young Frankenstein.
I think it went over.
Started on that.
That's my favorite film of all time.
Great movie.
Cool.
High Anxiety is fun as well. High Anxiety. Oh, that's so good.
I love Mel Brooks. Fine. Thank you all to the panel for
Thank you.
We're going to go back in the vault now, gentlemen.
Yeah. Back to watch more movies.
The spiders. The dark.
No, we let out of the vault. Now people can go and run.
All right, okay. Thank you, sir.
We're free.
Please come next week. They come back next week. Don't forget the competition, which it still will be the Godfather trilogy. I'll give that away on Sunday, I think. Thank you so much for coming. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. This is Friday, so this is where all the good content on YouTube starts. I hope you started with us. And have yourself a fantastic weekend.